Well, hello and welcome to Audionautic Deep Space Network, episode 87. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. This week, we're talking about some controversial changes coming to Spotify's royalties. We'll break down what the proposed changes are, how they will affect independent musicians as well. We'll also take a look at some modular MIDI and how it could change your studio workflow. This looks really cool. My name is Sun Warper, and with me today are Eon Lake and Curtis.
Hello.
Good evening. Going to go straight into the news today because yes, we have got some modular MIDI. It is Ableton's 22nd birthday, but we're going to start with Spotify. This is the thing that is on the tip of everyone's lips this week, this year, this time in space, wherever you happen to be watching. Maybe it's moment in time. Maybe you're searching back on the history of this and you're seeing it. But yes, Sun Warper, you brought this to the table today. What's going on with Spotify?
Yeah, so I'm going to share the screen that you put up. I believe it's Music Business Worldwide shared this, and a lot of talk has come out. A bunch of blogs have been covering it and things, but they're claiming that they confirm Spotify is planning to make significant changes to its royalty payout model in Q1 of 2024, with the intent to move $1 billion in royalty payments over the next 5 years to, in their quotes, legitimate artists and rights holders. They say, as one source puts it, Spotify is planning to execute these changes in an attempt to combat 3 drains on the royalty pool, all of which are currently stopping money from getting to working artists. That's their quote. They put, in short, yeah, it sounds great, but let's talk a little when they talk the what exactly they're doing, because this gets a little interesting, and it's, again, not everything has been confirmed. A lot of these are anonymous sources that they're quoting. So first, we'll talk what they're saying these 3 changes are. Introducing a threshold of minimum annual streams before a track starts generating royalties on Spotify. This is in a move expected to demonetize a portion of tracks that previously absorbed 0.5% of the service's royalty pool. And I want to go a little in depth on that before I go to the other 2, because this was really the big talking point. So they're saying our sources weren't willing to specify the exact number of streams that will inform this threshold, but we were told by one source involved in recent talks that the move is designed to demonetize a population of tracks that today, on average, earn less than 5 cents per month. I feel like that's written in a very oh yeah, this isn't important, but it does make a difference, and it is important. So they did some math, Music Business Worldwide, and they're claiming it seems in the U.S. that a stream would generate around 0.003 cents. So they're saying this would suggest that for these tracks to generate 0.05 cents per month in royalties to hit that threshold of getting paid, they would need to generate 17 plays a month, around 200 plays a year. Can you scroll down a little bit on the article, Curtis?
Yeah. Where do you want me to go down? Down to this guy, our Lord and Savior, Daniel Ek?
No, let's get past him. Go down a little further. I want to go to where they do some of the math. Keep going a little bit more. Right there. Right, just stop. A little bit up. Stop right there. There's the math. Okay, so that's what they're saying. So any song they're saying that would be above this 17 plays a month or around 200 plays a year would receive that payment.
Of 0.006,
so
was it?
It's written in a way that, oh, this isn't all that much, and things like that. But what it's not taking into account is this is setting a precedent that they're changing the way they're doing streaming. Streaming through Spotify was a democratized thing where a stream counted as a stream, whether you were the biggest artist or not. Now, maybe the royalty payouts were slightly different and stuff, but a stream was a stream. This now sets a precedent that they can, on a whim, change the percentage of stream share to meet these needs. And I was going to get into this after I discuss the other 3, but I'd rather talk about it now, I think, because it makes the most sense. This is what leaves a bad taste in my mouth about it is this is potentially a good thing for artists above the threshold. Okay. Spotify has changed this whole model, though. And to me, it seems like rather than this, hey, a stream is a stream, it's now going to this exploitative kind of like those venues where, oh, play for exposure. Like, get your music on here for the exposure. And in this new theoretical model, an artist would have to pay a distributor to put their song onto Spotify, promote the platform of Spotify to get people to stream their track. Therefore, every time someone they promote to goes to it, Spotify is getting ad revenue, or a member, they're getting a stream royalty that they can count. But you don't see a dime of that until you hit their threshold. So why should you be doing that? Why would you put your music up there with this very, very low rate of return, well beyond the low rates we already get in their current setup?
Yeah.
So I'll go to those other sections after, but I want to hear from you guys. And really quick, we got Survey Channel in the chat. It says their math is, how much more money can we make on the backs of non-major artists?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's start with what you think. Don't leave the. I'm going to switch to us, but don't leave the article because we'll go back for those other three. But
Seems
let's
like
start with
the
Curtis.
point is you're not getting streamed enough, so we're just going to keep all the money until you do, and then you can have some.
Yeah, and there, someone's argument was that distributors typically withhold royalty payments until you meet a certain threshold, which may be true, but on the other hand, the distributor is working with you and is holding your money kind of like a bank account, whereas with Spotify, I don't think they're paying, it sounds like, going to be paying the distributor until it even reaches the threshold. Curtis, what's your thought?
I wouldn't say that's an equal. It's a false comparison, really, isn't it? Sorry, Curtis. What do you reckon, mate?
That's a very good way of putting it. It's a very false comparison in its own right. Yeah, it's very similar to the companies who collect your neighboring rights and your sync licensing rights and your royalties from there. For example, you have to pay to play, you pay to get in, and then they keep your money until you've hit a certain threshold, by which point they deduct your fee and then they'll pay you the rest. Basically, they're going to take more money off you, and that is the long and short of it. And it can only come from the fact that they're still not turning profit. They got no way of making money, so they're just trying to drain this from the bottom. That's the only. I mean, I'm not an economist. I mean, they did some back of this. I love the phrase here in the some back of a napkin economics. I don't know much about nothing or nothing, but for me, it's like, well, you're already paying us fuck all for what we put out into the world. And there's no way of spinning this other than you're just trying to take more money from us. That's the only way you can take it. And it's disgusting. Like you say, okay, so 17 plays a month, as you said, somewhat, but it's not a massive threshold. 17 plays in a month. If you're doing your due diligence as a musician, you should be able to get 17 plays a month on a track. Should do, right? But like you say, it sets a precedence. And today it's 17. Tomorrow it's 100. You know what I mean?
1,000. Yeah, they could, because of this whole thing that, we're having to pay out this much money. I think there's a part in the article that talks about how much theoretically they have to pay out this year to these small streams, and it's like a large portion, but divided into tiny fractions. And this thought process is, we wouldn't, all that money would go to the artists who are, quote, legitimate artists in their terms, or getting more streams and stuff. But at some point they could be like, well, now we're putting the legitimate artist quota at 1,000 or at 2,000 because we're getting all that. Where does it stop? It's just this cascading event where it just keeps building, and it doesn't sit right.
The point is, there's a principle involved here, and they've created a 2-tier system now. And if you tried to do that to the internet, people would go crazy. It's a false equivalence because the internet's an open system, and this is an absolutely closed system. But it's the similar sort of thing. You've created 2 tiers now. It just doesn't seem like a good thing to me. I think if this feels to me more like the thrashing around of something dying than some good, well thought out business practices. I mean, taking the people who get lists for a ride, really, everyone, and we know this. We know this as amateur musicians, even as professional musicians in certain areas of the market, that everybody is in your pocket, for every single step of the way. Everything you want to do, people are in your pocket, as if you've got bottomless funds. And this is just another example of that, isn't it? And there was me thinking,
subscriptions.
Plug-in subscriptions.
It's.
I thought they're going to
crazy.
give you 80% share since you created all the music that they're making money from. But Well, apparently
That's
not.
what drives me crazy is that, like I was saying, you have to promote the song, tell people, "Hey, go listen to it on here." But if you don't hit that threshold, you've just given them ad revenue or stream numbers, but you're not seeing any of it. Why
And your
be there?
music.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear from chat, or if you're listening back on Apple or Spotify, put it in the question there, or if you're watching here after it airs, let us know in the comments. But I'm curious, what's your take on this? We heard from Survey Channel a little bit, but feel free to chime in more. I know you've got some opinions. I think Survey will read the Discord later, but I'm curious to hear what your take is. How do you feel about this? Are you thinking of taking your music off Spotify? I know some of our patrons recently put their music onto Spotify, and I'd be curious, even I who use Spotify and stuff, on the principle, I'm like, should I just get my music off here? Like, it hasn't happened yet. It with
thing
enough
is,
controversy, maybe they'll change it. Again, this is what's being
yeah,
reported. Sources are saying nothing's fully confirmed, but
that's true.
it's so I'm not saying to act rash and act quickly. Again, we don't know all the details. The number isn't terrible to reach, but it's more the principle here that just seems wrong. But chat, let us know how you're feeling. Gents, anything else you want to add before we get to these other two methods that they're changing the monetization?
There'll be
This-
more, but I think it's easy to make fun of the numbers and the statistics and the pittance that you're talking about here. But I think the principle is the 2 tiers. That's what
Yeah,
grinds
spot
my
on.
gears.
Spot on,
Oh, that
exactly.
rhymes as well. That rhymes as well. Beautiful. 2 tiers. That's what grinds my gears. I love that.
If we make
That
if we make this a clip for the
That's
long
it there.
form clips on YouTube, the title will be Spotify royalty changes, 2 tiers grinds my gears. There we go. That might
I
be
love it.
up on this coming Monday.
There is more to talk about, but some will go with the rest of the article before we can fully start ripping
All
this
right.
apart.
All right, let's continue. So number 2, let me go back to the article. Where is it? Here we go. Number 2 is financially penalizing distributors of music, labels included, when fraudulent activity is detected on tracks that they've uploaded to Spotify. So what they're saying is whenever Spotify detects a track with the play count boosted by flagrant artificial streaming fraud, and I'm gonna highlight that flagrant for a moment, and I'll talk about it in a minute. It will continue to remove said track from its catalog just as it does today. However, in addition, from Q1 2024, it's planning to charge the distributor of the track a monetary penalty. Spotify hopes this will act as a deterrent for distributors, including labels, from continuing to distribute tracks from known bad actors. Now, what's strange here is they're attacking, again, the artists and the distributors instead of dealing with the source, in my opinion, which is these bot farms and the bot plays happening on Spotify. And I've talked about this before from my own experience, but you can just search on Google or Reddit or anything like that, and you'll find a lot about artists being added to very obvious bot farm playlists without their consent or knowledge. And I've had this happen to me where I've had a song added, it gets like 1,000 streams in a day and then disappears. You're like, what the heck? And you look at this playlist and it's got 50,000 followers, the most random selection of tracks, and no followers of the actual curator and no other playlists. And then you look at the location and it's all from like Helsinki or, one place. It's very sketchy. I've emailed Spotify every time with all the receipts. Here's not receipts, but all the proof that, hey, this was added. Here's this. I didn't do this. What are you going to do? They're just like, oh, no, it's fine. Just don't worry about it. They don't do anything. So now they're just throwing all of that to the distributor. And I feel like, again, how is this going to happen when someone like me, who's had this experience where a track gets added without their consent, are we going to get penalized now because of this? Like, we didn't do this. So they're not dealing with the bots. They're just trying to somehow do this. Now, the reason I stopped on flagrant, I think that may be sort of the I can't think of the word from my newborn sleep deprived brain, but the deterrent of that happening to artists in my case, like that.
That's where the flex is, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, well, it's not flagrant. There was a day you were added to this, it disappeared. It's obvious you weren't paying for it or anything. Okay, no harm, no foul. But if they're reporting these things to the distributor, what if the distributor has a different take on it?
Yeah. What if the distributor says, do you know what? I can't afford to hire a ton of people to deal with all of this.
and the monetary payments.
Yeah.
It's saying they're going to charge them monetary payments.
Expensive to go through all that. So Spotify own the platform, the code, everything, and yet they're going to push it onto someone else to solve their problems.
Yeah. And who gets that money that they receive? Who gets that? Yeah. Does that go to the stream pool? Yeah. I doubt it. I doubt that highly. Curtis, what's your take on this?
It's corporate gaslighting to its absolute finest. That's what it is. There is a problem. We're not going to deal with the problem. We're going to make someone else deal with the problem because we don't need to deal with the problem. It's monopoly. They have such power and they have such influence, and everyone's using them, and the consumer is going to carry on using them. They know they can do whatever the hell they want, and no one's going to stop them. And none of us in this kind of here, so to speak, which I imagine a lot of people watching this either live, hi guys, or back on Spotify on Saturday when it goes to podcasts, for example, they're going to be in that tier as well. There's nothing supposedly that we can do in that regard, and they know that, and so then they and therefore they don't need to deal with it. They're just going to push it back onto the distributor, and that's just going to cause a chain reaction. There's going to be added, I feel there'll be added barriers to entry with things like DistroKid and TuneCore and CD Baby and all that lot. It's just going to get more and more muddy.
That's true. Yeah, there might be bigger issues to join on DistroKid or CD Baby to deal with this, or they up their prices or something. I'm curious, like, again, these are sources saying these things and things like that. I'm curious what distributors are going to say about this, if they're cool with it, if they've been talking with Spotify about this, if this is coming as complete news to them, and they're like, whoa, what?
It depends. It depends where they fall and where they get it from. Like, so this entire thing, so Spotify, distributing networks, DistroKid, etc. This was the democratization of distribution. This, when it came about, it was the way in which the indie musician could circumvent and not need the record label. You could be your own self-made musician. You can make your own way in this world, and that's being chopped away. And that's the main thing. That's the main crux of the situation. Now suddenly there's a bigger barrier to entry to actually getting your royalties off Spotify. There's less incentive to be on Spotify. We don't know what it means for distributors, but it could be, and I stress could, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Suddenly my DistroKid is not all happy-go-lucky anymore. It's a lot more murky in that regard. And that's problematic, very problematic.
Very much so. Yeah. Anything you want to add before we move to the third?
I think the third might be key here, because I started off thinking, well, what is this problem that you're trying to solve? What's the problem? Is it you just don't have enough money? Is it that your lovely platform doesn't make you money? But I think really, if the third point is what you're about to say it is, then that might actually answer the question to some extent. What's next?
So the third one, Curtis, do you mind sharing the screen again? Because I'm on my notes.
Is it just below?
I think so.
I think it's the next paragraph.
Here, I'll share it. Here we go. Yeah, introducing a minimum length of playtime that each non-music, quote, noise track must reach in order to generate royalties. So from Q1 2024, they're saying we've confirmed Spotify is planning to significantly elongate the minimum unit of time that each track of non-music audio content must meet before a payout is triggered. This one, I don't necessarily have as much problem with, because I kind of see what they're doing. There's been a lot of times where people are gaming the system to a degree and adding noise or something like that, and you can listen for X amount of time and they get payments for just field recording something. I still don't agree with these things. Again, a stream should be a stream no matter what. That's, in my opinion, that's what Spotify was. I just think this is the least, in my opinion, the least problematic. I think the other two are a lot of the bigger problem. But if you guys feel differently, please go on.
Link first. Go.
Well, I was thinking that this bit was going to be about money laundering, basically, because it seems like some criminal enterprises have
we need to get into that.
just laundering money,
it's
right?
money laundering. Is that what you're saying?
I think they mentioned that and it's even said they're doing something with AI in the end to like figure it all out or something. It's very weird. We'll have to talk about that in another episode and look into that. But I wouldn't be surprised if these weird bot farm things that I've been dealing with, where a song gets added and disappears, it's so strange because I never understood what's the point of this. Why are you adding random artists to these playlists with bot farms? Just in hopes that they go to the playlist, see the email, and then pay you 150. There's got to be something more. So maybe it's all connected. I have to look into that. We should all look into that. But
money on Spotify instead.
Suddenly,
They clean
suddenly
their
we're
money.
the Johnny
But
Harris
anyway.
of music production.
This with the non-music stuff, I think, really is part of the market that they want to corner for themselves. So they want to try and push out sort of ambient, relaxing soundscapes, things for people who can't get to sleep and all of that. That I wasn't aware that people relied on Spotify a lot for, actually, to be fair.
There's whole playlists. Even Spotify, as you were saying, they have their own playlists with, it's not their music, or it might be. I mean, all these ghost producers and stuff, but they have like Ocean Wave playlists, and it's just all these different tracks of ocean waves.
Yeah. I think they're just trying to squeeze that out so that they can monetize it themselves. I mean, I suppose they need to try and make some money, don't they?
This to me is the worst one.
Really? Yeah, I wanted to ask because I saw you nodding your head in disapproval the whole time, and I'm curious. I'm very happy to be wrong. I thought this was the least problematic because the other ones I feel like are much. I think the first one's the biggest issue. Like to me, it's tiered. Like the first one's the biggest issue. The second one's next because of these bot farm issues that are happening to artists unbeknownst to them, and then the third would be this because most of us are making music, so I don't see it being as problematic. But I don't agree with it. Of course, I'm just saying I see it as the least issue, and you're saying it's the biggest. And really quick, hello to David and Bendu in the chat. What's going on?
Yo.
Sorry, I put Survey Channel. Of course, we're happy to have you, but I put the wrong one. There's Bendu. Go ahead, Curtis.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Lovely to hear you. And join us in this collective woeness of what's going on with Spotify.
First it's Bandcamp, now it's Spotify.
Yeah, we do have good stuff later. We promise.
Yeah, we're in the end times of music production. No, I'm just kidding.
We can't ignore this, but we do finish on a lighter note today. So, but yes, for me, okay, maybe I didn't think when I said it's the worst one, but the idea of setting a precedent is what gets me here, right? So white noise, binaural beats, whale song, etc., right? So what they're called like non-music or non-musical stuff, right? So noise, right? How do you define noise? Because there's a whole genre based on noise production. Bendu has a side project for noise. Lars Haur makes a lot of noise stuff. All of a sudden, they're defining what is music and what isn't music. Fuck off, basically.
I see your point. Yeah, it's again the slippery slope of, well, first it's ocean noise, then it's ocean noise and a drone that could be problematic. Then it's ocean noise, drones, and light piano noise. Like where does it stop? I see what you mean. Me personally, I still see it as the least of these problems, but it's like they're all slippery slopes. That's the issue. They're so vaguely written. Well, except the first one's not necessarily vaguely written. It's kind of a blanket statement, but it has the potential to keep escalating. But the other ones just seem very vague so that they can keep changing the goalposts,
And again, I don't like where their heads at, even with this vague thinking and non-official. This isn't an official announcement either, but
I want to highlight that it's not officially announced, at least unless it's changed in the last day or so. But this was, I guess, leaked would be the best way, or reported. So it's not necessarily confirmed, but it does seem to be the case, and a lot of reputable blogs are covering this and stuff. So it seems to be very likely.
I think
now
channels kind of hit it on the head, and that none of this is particularly positive, but it's not particularly positive. Spotify wasn't some sunshine utopia to start with, and now this it's
yeah. Well, let me read a few comments, and then we've got some comments from the Discord that I want to read as well. But Servicho says, my real issue is I hate Spotify. David says,
surely.
David says, if the goal is to make a living making music that people buy, it's a harsh reality time. Maybe it's a side hustle. I'm not sure I'm there completely because there's a lot more than just streaming that you can do. I get what you're saying. You're right, especially if you're trying to just do music and for music's sake. But there's a lot of music adjacent type things that you can do, like selling sample packs, doing YouTube, doing this or that, that could make sense to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like what I've been doing and it's been working. But yeah, I get if you're just trying to make music, not do the social media angle, this and that. Yeah, I can
Luck.
see that to a it's luck. Yeah, for sure. David says ocean noise mini freak. Yeah, that's gonna get you demonetized. Yeah. No, you're spot on, Curtis. I didn't mean to say I can't recall if I said like it's the not problematic. It is that third one. I just think of these three that it's the least it's my least biggest issue. The first one's my biggest. Like that's just it's so exploitative and just so disgusting that it's like, what? You have to pay to be on this platform. You have to push people to go on it and stream, and they get money from those streams, but they're not going to give you anything for the effort you put in there. It just seems so wrong. It's go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut across you.
No, I've been rambling. Go ahead.
Just sharing in your misery. Just the notion of
no, it's not misery. It's anger.
It's
frustration and
sharing
it's
anger. Like,
it's outrage. Yeah, it's disgust.
How very dare you?
it's this thing, and that's the thing, right? So this is the time. This is the time. This is the call to action. This is the time. This is if you are a member of a independent music community or you are a consumer of independent music, it is the time to start talking about this. It's the time to bring this up.
Speak out, right?
And speak out about it. It's the time to start sharing about it. It's the time to put it on social media. It's the time to look into and investigate and learn about what it is from the other side. As in, if you are consuming music through Spotify, what's it like for those who are putting the music onto Spotify? Because this will drive people away. This won't be fair. This is a squeezing technique by a big capitalist corporate conglomerate that is basically floundering because it can't turn a profit, right? It's this works, right? And this happens. It's gonna do that, but then it's still not going to turn a profit because it's a terrible business model.
Yeah, then what happens when artists start pulling their music because of it?
It's going to start.
I don't know if they're thinking that, and yeah, maybe they think, oh, these are small artists. It's not going to have an effect. But
maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to cut down on their hosting costs.
That's true. Because it was saying,
but
it was saying can on your 40 albums can take a hike, and we don't care. And we can just have these, major label money burning stuff or money earning stuff, on our servers, and reduce the overhead. It could all be deliberate,
No, you're probably right. And like the article says, they're getting 40,000 or 100,000 songs a day, a week, something like that added. And so this is kind of like their way of dealing with it to a degree. Again, this is all sources and conjecture and things like that, but it's true.
It feels like the thin end of the wedge, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's next?
Yeah. That's what's very concerning. Bendu in the chat says many legit noise musicians are fine with long track length, maybe the norm. Well, track length is one thing, but the amount of what's streamed giving you a royalty is the difference. So as of now, whatever length these noise tracks are, if you listen for 30 seconds or 31 seconds, it counts as a stream and you get that great 0.003 cents or whatever have you that Spotify gives you so kindly. But now it would be for this noise track, it would be a minute 30, something like that. Whereas any other quote musical song, as Curtis was saying, now it delineates what's music and what's not. It would be at 31 seconds you get paid versus your noise track not. That's the issue. Vendu also says, I agree with Survey Channel. Spotify's the devil. And David, to your point, Curtis, about speaking out, he says, this is a time, absolutely, definitely. Where is it? FCC says, hey, everyone, forgot it was a different time today, so dipping in while I cook dinner. Yeah, I know. We have the crazy time changes got us this week. As always in October, we have differences, but it's only for 1 week. So,
we're back next week, and I think we handled it pretty well this week. I mean, we only had a mini freak out at the weekend, me and some author, and it's fine. Everyone's here for now. I think
our
this year
usual weekly mini freak
after
behind the scenes.
I think
Eon Lake was there to watch though, and added to the confusion because we had now 3 time zones we were discussing, and I could not comprehend what we were. I was like, wait, am I behind? Because my time was normal, like nothing's changed. So I'm like, what are we doing? But we got there. And we're here. And Bendu, hopefully that made it more clear. Yeah, it's not the length, it's the duration of the stream length. That's the thing. So
that did make me laugh though when he said that. Noise musicians should just be like, come at me, bro. What, you want longer songs?
You want an hour? Sure.
It's not a problem.
It's a sorry time, and it comes back to the notion of further decentralization of your art, putting your art into more places, but also having more control about where your art is and having more direct payments for your art. People need to know, if you want to support your artists, maybe for now go to Bandcamp. Otherwise, go to your own website, which we have Frequency Control Center coming in at the end of the month to talk about all of that. ADSN 90. So that's going to be fun.
He's a pro web designer, and so he's going to give us a crash course on what we need to know when we're considering designing, what we should consider. Should we use something like Squarespace or Wix, or should we try to do it on WordPress? He's going to give us an awesome little crash course, and it's going to be good. But now is the time to consider, as Curtis was saying, where do we want our music placed? Do we want to support things like this? Again, it's not confirmed fully. It hasn't happened, but it is a very interesting thought. And I think that's something to consider. But then you run into things, Bandcamp's having these issues that we've been pointing out that we need to consider. And when it comes to having your own website, it's great, but you have to try to rely on SEO. You have to try to drive people to a website they don't frequent, that they don't have, like, let's say, an account on. How are they buying it? Things like that. So these are all things you have to consider, and maybe there's compromises that have to be made. But I think the point is, with all of these things happening, it gives the impetus to have this discussion and to start considering, well, where can I put my music? Where should I put my music? And what's the place for it? Where do we want to have it? And I think having a decentralized or a centralized, like, have your own website, whether you sell or not on there, just that you can have people go to no matter what changes happen on these sites. Because that's the issue. Social media, now streaming platforms, now even Bandcamp, things are changing on a whim. You don't know what's going to happen. So if you have your own site, it's yours. If you have your own site, it's yours, and nothing can change that. So you can have that platform. And if you can get people there with a blog, something like that, you're driving engagement right there, and you control it all. And FCC is in the chat. He says, any questions about web design for your own sites, let me know, and we'll talk about them on the show. Yeah, you can hit him up, or you can let us know in the Discord, where I'm actually going to read a few patrons bits about what their takes on Spotify are. But yeah, the Discord is in the chat. You're welcome to join. There's an exclusive channel for patrons, but everything else is for all. Were you going to add something?
No.
Okay, let me go to this Discord and I'll share a little bit of the take. I have to actually move because I can't read it from there. So Lars says, I'm hoping they backtrack on this idea. It will cause a lot of independent artists to hate them even more. Even more should be like bold, italicized. But I doubt that would be enough backlash for them to actually change their minds if there's enough money to be had. The business model is flawed as it is. I believe it has only turned a profit 2 to 3 fiscal quarters during its entire existence. Perhaps they think this will make it more likely to turn a profit consistently. Yeah. And I was about to say, it's funded basically by angel investors. I don't think that's ever changed, angel investments. But Lars continues, 70% of Spotify is owned by 5 different investment firms. These entities couldn't give less of a shit about music. They want their investment to pay out. It is interesting because you think, though, like, if artists start pulling music, where's this? What's the thought process there? Where's it going? So it's interesting. And then Survey Channel, again, I hate Spotify. I also remember when it was just a music library app like iTunes, then investors and labels got involved. It was also about corporate interests. Yeah. So a lot of the same things they're saying there. And ASAP Stripe, I am a broken record, but I see no other path than a fair minimum stream wage. Otherwise, we get to listen to the hits of 70s, 80s, 90s till we perish. It's an interesting thought. It brings up a lot of thoughts to me, and maybe that's something we can talk about on the
one way to go.
The Discord. Yeah, I mean, I wonder how that would all work. You know, it's interesting because Spotify already doesn't make a profit, and I'm not justifying for Spotify. But it's just an interesting thought. Like, how would that work? Like a minimum stream wage that's livable? I don't know. It's interesting. And Lars just got in the chat right in time. Oh, hey, look, I'm just in time. Yeah.
There you go. I think it's interesting the use of language of David Asef Drope saying a broken record, because broken record is a great channel for education on this subject. They're on x.com. They're on. I believe I just said x.com.
You mean Twitter?
Say Twitter for the first time. Yeah, that one.
Wow, that took me by. I was like, what is x.com?
They're on the Twitter. They're on Instagram. I think they've got a YouTube channel as well. But they do provide very, very comprehensive education on the state and the business of streaming from the artist perspective, and basically how we're being shafted and continue to be so. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go have a look. Broken record. Just type in broken record.
It's a big deal now, because the advent of that streaming pushed everything towards the live arena. Then COVID shut down all the live arenas.
Yeah, it's like where can an artist earn now?
Yeah. How many more revenue streams do you want to stamp on?
Yeah, it's almost as if in order to be an artist these days, and you want to make money from your art, and you want to live as a full-time musician, you need to go back to the Renaissance times and have some form of patronage. That would be the best thought process, and it's interesting because this show is run by our patrons.
I knew that was coming. I knew you were going to turn it to the Renaissance. I was just thinking in my head, like, yeah, though really. Has there ever been a time beyond like the 1900s where music wasn't funded, right, by patrons? But anyways, continue, Curtis.
Completely. Thank you, patrons. Say thank you. In this time, we want to thank you for everything that you do for us, and just the community that you're helping us build. It's wonderful, and thank you ever so much. We love you, and thank you ever so much for letting us and allowing us to do this week in, week out, drivel, drone, and get angry on air, and just continue to build. It's wonderful. Thank you ever so much. If you are listening and you're not a patron, but you like what we do, and you want to see more of it, consider becoming a patron. It's very cool. It's a nice place. They start at $2, which is it's the whole price of a cup of coffee actually these days. And you know,
man,
it allows us
cheap
to
where you are.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I suppose
California.
Actually, friends just coming back from from New York City saying it was $5 for a coffee. But
I was gonna say, man, here in Los Angeles, that $2 is
it's just gonna happen. So basically we have different tiers. We have $2 tier, $5 tier, $7 tier, and a $10 tier. And there's a lot of behind the scenes content, extra content. There's a monthly Starstream hangout. There's a Discord weekly channel, and weekly now. Yes, that's true. I forgot about that.
That's why I got you covered, bro.
Thank you. I got it. Even in your sleep deprived manner, you still know more than me. And we have a wonderful Discord community, as you see some are reading from the chats there, where we have these in-depth discussions which help fuel the show. This was really new recently, is the conversations that we're having in the Discord and in the Twitter group is actually giving us fuel for the fire to make the show.
Yeah, we try to bring one of the major topics to the patrons about, you know, whenever it comes up. Like this Spotify stuff came up a couple days ago. We talked about it when the Bandcamp stuff was coming up. We brought it up, and we get a lot of opinions, and that's what we love, to hear different opinions. Like we always say, to bring a little more optimism. Together we grow. So when we talk about new gear, or like I was bringing up that with the new Digitact, I thought I could use MIDI through to the circuit tracks, but I need a splitter. So I was asking for splitter advice. I had paged Eon Lake, but he never came to my help, as typical. He just never helps me when I need him. But David did, fortunately, and I was very, very happy to have David there. But that's what it is. It's together we grow, and I can talk about things like routing MIDI through to the circuit tracks, and rather than my wife just eyes glazing over and being like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Everybody knows. So if you want a group like that, consider joining.
If you want to be, I mean, one thing that tickles my fancy is the notion that we casually just Eon Lake can start a conversation about envelope followers with absolutely no pretext or run up to anything. There's no gauging here. We're just going straight in with envelope followers, and it's a wonderful community in which to do that.
David's got me. Look at that. Yeah, appreciate it, David. Where Eon Lake failed, you came through. It's all right, Eon Lake. I still love you, man. I just
judged by Songtradr.
I'm just kidding, man. I needed your expert advice. You're like my sage mentor, and you just didn't come through, and I was left abandoned alone in the rain, head down.
Sorry.
It's all right. I forgive you.
Okay.
I just had to dig it in a little bit.
I'm letting you guys hash it out while I queue up the next segment, because there's a few stuff, and this is all on me. This one is particularly on me. We that was our news/marketing minute for the day. Let us know what you think. If you are listening back, this podcast is live now on Wednesday, but it does go out to streamers on Saturday on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. If you're there, let us know what you think. Perhaps consider leaving a review, a like. It goes a long way. We make thumbnails and stuff every week, and some author makes clips. And yeah, let us know if you like that stuff, because we like making it for you. So let's see if it hits home. Anything more before I move on to modular MIDI?
No, I think I made Eon Lake sad. I'm sorry. But to be fair, you started it.
Don't stand on that, please. Don't do that. It's very precious right now. This is
I do want to highlight one thing though. You may have noticed that. Well, first of all, Cat TV is in a higher definition. Curtis got first he upgraded the microphone, which made me very happy. But now we've got a higher definition webcam. Look at that wide angle or widescreen. We can see Steve in all of his glory. Checking out, Cats on synthesizers. We can go, of course, to Eon Lake. Look at that.
Not sure about his mixing techniques.
Yeah, the mixing techniques may be questionable, but
over the faders. See what happens.
He's just learning from me. That's all it is. He's learning from me.
We're still trying to test out that 48 voice. What is it? The PS 3300. The Cat on all. Get all the voices. We're still waiting on that one. So
all the keys.
But now you'll have it in a higher definition when Steve does decide to do that.
Exactly. So yeah, he's getting there. He's found his space. We're all good. So we'll carry on. Modular MIDI. This is a little bit more of an exciting, happy-go-lucky, positive story, because
the rest of the episode is positive. We promise.
We promise. Once more, the Spotify not Spotify. Damn, that's how quickly it came. This time it is the Instagram algorithms bringing me the goodness today. Stumbled across this Intech Studio, a Hungarian startup company, specifically from Budapest, have developed these wonderful MIDI controllers. And there's a whole range of them. They're very small. There's only about 6 people in the company, and these are completely customizable, mappable MIDI controllers. So they all have different. Obviously, they've got different tangible knobs and dials and buttons and everything, right? And these are totally mappable with their systems, in which you can map not just to things like Ableton or to Logic or to whatever DAW you have to be using, but also synthesizers and hardware. Looking at you, ASF Stripe. There is a wonderful way in which you can create everything and have everything patched through these modules. They are what made this so amazing for me personally is the idea that they're blank canvases. They can be mapped to however you want them to be. And as you can see, if I come back over here, you can see these dots here, right? On all of them. They are jigsawable. I think that is an adjective. They are, yeah, completely and utterly. I'm going to show you a video in a second. But basically,
can I just interrupt you for 1 sec? Because I love the synchronicity when you called out ASF Stripe. I looked in the chat and he was saying, I need more controllers like this.
I know my
and he even says, wow.
Yep. I know. I know my people. Yeah. Now, okay. So they've got a new one in the Tech 2, right? So they've got jog wheels, and they've got these are like launch. These are like launch buttons, right? You've also got knobs, which you can change things, parameters, etc. And you've got basically mixers, right? Encoders with faders, controllers, etc. Right? They've also got what's called the Knot. Now, this is a MIDI hub, MIDI merge. I call it a MIDI merge because I love that alliteration. I know it's not the real
You
name,
love to
but it's where
confuse
you,
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can where you can take
Spreading
a
misinformation.
MIDI merging
Spreading
is a thing different.
yeah, you can take okay, fair enough. You can take 5-pin MIDI and convert it into USB MIDI, for example, with the Knot here, and then they've got all the accessories. They've even got module stands, extra knobs, example, and adapters.
Wait, go down to that MIDI adapter. I think
This
that's
one
what
here?
I just bought to no, all the way to the bottom. The last thing.
This
That
one.
one. Yeah, that's I think
Yeah.
that's what I just bought for the SP, not from them, but for the
Yeah.
SP to talk to the Diggy. Yeah.
Yeah.
E-type in this case.
And
You
it's
get
actually
A-type
cheaper than what I paid on Amazon. Why didn't you tell me this earlier?
Well,
Yeah,
so
it's
it comes through
shipped
now.
from Europe, though.
Ah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah,
Good
it
point.
is
Yeah.
Budapest.
So
It is from
good
Budapest.
point. I wasn't
Um,
thinking there.
But I think
Okay,
the
Jan, like I
real
forgive you. You got me covered there. All is forgiven.
I totally aware. Thank you, Lars. I think what really gets me about this is the fact that it's you can jigsaw them together in any way which you want them
That's
to be.
sick.
Now, I want to play a little video from Intech Studio. It's a bit older now, but I want to share this so you can see. There we go. Just a little bit, doesn't go on for long, but I want to show you just kind of he's programming it with Ableton, which jigsaws nicely in with our final segment of the day, where we're looking at briefly at Ableton.
How
But this
jigsawable.
jigsawable, exactly. Let me play this video, and then you can just see it. See, you can kind of get an idea of kind of how big it is and kind of how he's working and clipping stuff on, that kind of thing. So I'll play it now. Hopefully you can hear this.
I'm also launching clips with this module. Here, my channels are color coded on these LEDs, and I can launch the various clips.
So yeah,
cool.
you get the idea. Cool little thing, a little startup from Budapest. It's the first. What do they say? They are the first. They are the first company. They are the first startup of this nature inside Budapest. Basically, they did really well in Superbooth 18, for example, and they've just kind of grown and grown and grow from there. And so yeah, I'm bringing this to you people so you can see.
Yeah. Well, Monochrome Echo in the chat says they do look very smart indeed. Yeah, they do. They look really cool. And I like that you have the encoder or pots. You can go either option. They have the two different options for the, but I just think that's so cool that you can just build. That's why we put modular MIDI as the title. You're basically creating the MIDI setup you need. Like Curtis earlier was a year ago was looking at all these different options for controlling Ableton, and did you have to make some concessions? Because at some point you had to buy a second one to get what you needed, right? But just imagine
two of these now.
Yeah. So if you didn't know about this, you could have like designed exactly what you needed, and put it to. There's the cat again. Oh, he's showing us what I was talking about, the MIDI controller. But he's like, here you go, I got you. But you could actually customize it to be everything exactly that you need, and then if you need to expand or get rid of things, just pops right off or pops on. I mean, it's awesome. Ian, like, what's your take? Go ahead, Curtis.
Just beforehand, you can change those mid-session, right?
Yeah.
So you've got your setup, all right, and you can break them down and rearrange them while the music's still playing, and it will reconfigure for you. That's a dope thing. Sorry, Ian, like, go.
Well, the algorithm got me as well because this appeared in my feed this week too, and I was looking at them. The thing that surprised me though is just that everyone was saying, "Oh, this would be cool in the studio." What about live? I mean, it's perfect for live. They're tiny, they're completely customizable, so that you only have what you need. You can build a live instrument for performance, I mean, that for me has got to be the strongest selling point.
Well, think about it this way too, though, Eon. Like you could have crossover, like having your studio setup be portable with you live. That's what I'm thinking. Like I always think studio and live are
with me.
Yeah, you just pop it right out of your studio. You know, it's easy. It's not that expensive in terms of, so you can just have it all set up. You can have it control your studio and then replicate exactly what you're doing from the studio live with all these pieces of gear that are
or even like even if your live performance is nothing like what you do in the studio, you can use the same gear to do it, just different mappings and whatnot. And I mean, when you're thinking about space saving and everything needs to justify its presence, there's something that absolutely can. The only thing I wasn't 100% keen on was the cost, because I'm already thinking, right, I need 8 of those.
I'm assuming it can work with other companies' gear, right? Like Curtis, you have the Novation, right? So if you just bought 1 or 2 to start, right, you could have it all connected with what you already have, and then maybe over time get more of what you need. So you're not, you don't have to get all 8. Eon, like you could start with 1 or 2 and map it.
And if you've got a really good controller and it just doesn't have a whatever, you could just get one of those, and now it does. It's kind of like, that's the modular side of it, right? It's like saying I want another oscillator on my synth, and it's got a patch point, so you can just patch one in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just for comparison, let me just bring this back up. So to just have a bit of a comparison with Eon Lake here, what he's saying, because it's a valid point. Oh, did you click it as well as I clicked?
I did,
yeah. So that's fine. So the PBF4, right? So this is where you've got 4 faders, you've got a launch key, and you've got 4 knobs, right? This is €119, which is about 3,000 crowns, which is what, $120 essentially. This for 4 faders, right? That's the same price as one of these launch controls, for example. One of these launch controls is it's about 120, €130. So that's kind of in comparison. The difference is that the PBF4 is made out of aluminium, and they are, the build quality is super, and obviously you've got that jigsaw ability. Again, using that word, great. So
he's really going all in on jigsaw ability.
I'm the same as Eon Lake, because for example, for my setup right now, I need 4 of the PBF4s straight away in order to kind of create a thing, right? In order to make that work, plus all the knobs that go with it and stuff. So it's a modular. It's similar, I suppose, to literally modular MIDI. It's similar to Eurorack in terms of for software, in that, for me at least. So something to think about.
Wouldn't it be cool to see other companies make a similar size format where you could kind of like, I mean, it's MIDI, so it doesn't matter, but like kind of like modular, where you can put the different ones depending on your need. Cool.
Yeah,
especially if you don't have to mess around with screws. It's all just magnetic.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'd like to see what you guys listening back in the chat, or if you are listening on Spotify, what would you use this for? Is this something that excites you as much as it excites us? Are you going to be powering software or hardware, for example? Would you use it to manipulate your hardware synths? That's what I'd really like to see. There are videos of Intech doing that with the Polyane tracker as well. It does seem to be the all-encompassing response to controlling, I think, which is, I haven't seen anything quite so blank slated, which is nice to see.
Yeah, I think that's exhausted the topic.
Good luck, John.
Jigsawed it. Yeah.
We got a message from David. Says, what are the dimensions? Let's have a look. If I have a quick butchers, see the parameters. Why don't we move on, and I'll try and find out.
I just need to comment. This was a very British episode. I feel like aluminium, jigsawability, and a butcher's having a butcher's.
Having a butcher's. Yeah, I found it actually. Here we go.
Do you need me to share the screen again? There we go.
Yeah. So there we go. So 106.6 millimeters or 4.19 inches for our guys over in America. So yeah, 106 by 106 essentially, a 0.01 inches off of the perfect dimension, I feel. But yeah, and that's what's in comparison to a 14-inch laptop. So there you go.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Curtis, Lars says you have a way with words.
Thank you, sir. I try my best. I try my best. But yes, that's what's going on. Lastly, yeah, but definitely not leastly. There you go. How's that for words?
Leastly today. David says portable, and Survey Channel says I hate inches. A prisoner to inches.
I get that.
But we'll end on some really good news. I mean, it's not news. It's just some good stuff, right? Ableton turns 22. I think it was yesterday or Monday. It turned 22, and Ableton posted a photo. Yeah, happy birthday, Ableton. Even I will say that. But Ableton posted a picture of, I think it's Live 2. And we were during our weekly Star Stream hangout in the patron with in the Discord with our patrons. We were taking a look and we were having a laugh because it's like, how much has changed?
Yeah,
a lot's changed. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, look at it. Like, I mean, why fix what's not broken or whatever, right? But like, look at it. Yeah, the comment. It's barely changed its interface. But I mean, I do like that the gray, I think, has changed a bit. So, you know, it matured in its grayness, I guess. So that's good.
You get choices now. You can customize all
different shades of gray.
Yeah. Oh, you so could you make it like blue?
I think so.
Benju's
Yeah.
got
Benju's got made mine go purple for a while.
Interesting.
There you go. There you go. Suddenly his ears prick up. There you go. Purple, you say. Yeah.
Never mind all that musical enhancement and usability.
Well, now we just got marked explicit because of you, Curtis. Yeah.
It has in terms of its musicality and what it can do. As far as I understand, I haven't used Ableton. I've only used Ableton 9, 10, and 11. But even that, its capabilities are insane.
I actually wanted to ask everybody's experience with Ableton. Like, when did you find it? Like, I started with Ableton, I think it was 9, and then I might have used 10 a little bit, but that's about it. But Eon, like, what about you? Because you converted from Logic, right?
Yeah, I did. 9. Yeah. I was on Logic 9, and Ableton 9 was coexisting at the time, and I liked the idea of, you know, I found I was spending too much time looking at a screen and looking at a progress bar moving across blocks, and it all felt very repetitive and so on. And I wanted to get away from the screen. And the way you can launch clips and not have to worry about having to make an arrangement first and all of that stuff, so you can just make music instead, really appealed to me. And it was during a time when I was trying to get more hands on the music rather than messing around with a computer, which doesn't feel like making music sometimes. So it was like and it really worked out well for me. I like it. And that's not to say there aren't other products, I don't think, that work a similar way now, but
Logic added their clip launcher, and it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. I mean, I personally didn't gel well with Ableton, but I used it for my live shows before everything happened with 2020. I still at some point would like to get back into it if I could just get it to click with my brain, because I know it would work well with what I want it to do, but it just doesn't work. Like, I actually bought Reason again because I just find this is so weird. I'm curious if anybody feels the same, but I feel like I write differently depending on DAW. Like in Logic, I typically do ambient or like string arrangements and guitars and stuff like that. But with Reason, because of the way it's designed and how I work with it, it's more like electronic stuff. And like, I just noticed that when I try to do it in Logic, especially like their MIDI quantized, it's just a little different for me. I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same. We got some talk though that people don't necessarily like Ableton in the chat. And then Curtis, I want to hear your experience with Ableton. Lars says, don't like Ableton. David says, no Ableton for me. And Frequency Control Center vomits at the mere thought or notion of Ableton. A fellow in the Ableton dislike train.
Absolute hate.
That's a harsh reaction.
I couldn't name a DAW that I hate.
I feel like we had less hate for Spotify.
Yeah. Nobody vomited at Spotify stealing
Yeah.
our money. Frequency Control Center, though, also says, I'm the same with regards to the different DAW stuff. Reason just clicks for me, but I can't do anything in Ableton.
Yeah, because I was going to say, my music doesn't change based on what DAW I use, but the amount of it I do does.
Yeah.
I do much more in Ableton.
So you feel, despite like everything's the same, because they all kind of, to me, have slightly different quantize algorithms and different things like that, and the way the samplers work and things like that. Like,
to some extent, I don't like having to learn a new one from scratch. It is a pain.
Yeah, maybe that's it. I just didn't give enough time, but I've used Logic and Reason in coexistence for years, and I still find like all of Music for Imagined Landscapes I made in Logic, but then when I bought Reason again, things just clicked differently again, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing stuff I was doing like 2 or 3 years ago.
What was Reason before it was named Reason? Was it?
It's always been Reason, I think, at least since like Reason 4
or whatever that.
No, Cakewalk. So Reason was originally by Propellerhead Studios, but they changed their name to, I think, Reason Studios or something. But but I could be wrong. Reason always had, I think it was Reslice or something, like another that was more sample based. I forget the history of Reason. I started with Reason 4, but I only used it for drums for the longest time. Little bit more chat. Monochrome Echo offering a different perspective. Big love for Ableton here. Couldn't do half my stuff without it. Frequency Control Center says maybe the wrong emoji choice. No, you got to express how you feel. Like Lars is saying, Ableton for Lars just feels really weird. It's okay. Be honest. This is a place to just, I mean, within reason, let's be nice about things. But yeah, Curtis getting vomity at the thought of Reason. Whoa.
No, it's like, because you said within reason. It's I thought you were playing a
Maybe I was. Maybe I was.
Maybe you were. Maybe you were. And I ruined it by mentioning it.
I always love the idea though, like when you're working with Reason and Logic. Like sometimes if you're trying to use the sync, I forget what it's called. Is it resync or whatever? But you can't get Reason to talk with Logic, and just that sentence always cracks me up as a philosophy major. Like, oh, I can't get Reason to talk with Logic. Like what?
I like that.
FCC says recycle. Recycle. That was it. I forget what I said. Resample. Recycle.
That for a while. Yeah, I couldn't really.
What have you not had though, Eon Lake?
Syphilis. Never had that.
We're really getting just. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. But gear-wise and DAW-wise, what have you?
I haven't really used Reason or Recycle. I was a Cubase man back in the day. When I used to work in the studios, we always used Cubase. I couldn't work Logic then, but I ended up using Logic later on, and then moved to Ableton. Haven't really used any others properly. A bit of Pro Tools,
yeah. I used Pro Tools first.
Pro Tools is very recording sound, really.
I was going to say that was before I did any MIDI. I was recording only instruments back then.
Because back then I used to use Soundscape as well, which was like Pro Tools. It was just digital recording.
Okay, but Curtis, let's hear your Ableton experience, because it's like changed everything you do, which is interesting to me. And then I'll read. There's some more comments, but if anybody wants to share their experience or lack thereof with Ableton, go ahead. I know we've gotten a few, and I'll read everybody's. But Curtis,
that's fun. It was a real kind of like it was a real moment for me. The change. I used FL Studios for 10 years, I think. And I think an FL Studio it's a great DAW. It's awesome. The sequencer on it is still better than I think than the sequencers that you get in Ableton.
Shots fired.
But the shots fired. Yeah. But that said, everything else about Ableton, its workflow, its intrinsic kind of he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it. For people watching back, Steve can open doors.
Yeah, if you're listening, Curtis paused because Steve, his cat, was very close to the door, and
he's opening the door,
and he can jump and open it. So we might get that, and then we can zoom in on it, later. But anyways, Curtis, continue, please.
Yeah, just the way it works for me is really good. The way that it almost I don't follow the regular steps for like for mixing, like the gain staging and then moving through with like general like volume balance and then adding effects, etc. I just don't do that. And Ableton is very intuitive in that, and it allows you to kind of perform and mix at the same time. And then it allows you to there's obviously the live aspect to it as well, which I'm still working on, as we all are. But okay, in a world where the independent musician might have to go back to having its own website and making its own CDs and playing in live. If you're using a DAW to play live, it is truly the only one, in my experience, that it can do that. Where you can be triggering off loops and have it as an accompaniment, as an instrument, that kind of thing. Recently, I've been the algorithm keeps hitting me with Bitwig kind of adverts and people using Bitwig and that, and I'm curious because it looks quite cool. A lot of people who make sidetrance use Bitwig, but so I might go and have a little look at that and see what's going down. But just to more like avid curiosity, like sometimes you like Maltesers, sometimes you like M&Ms, like that kind of thing. But I love Ableton, and for me, it's second to none. As you can see, I've my recent acquisitions of gear have all been based around the using of Ableton in the most fluidly. Ironically, how well can I use Ableton without looking at Ableton? That's what it's all about, which is similar to Eon Lake in that fashion, I feel. So
yeah, it's interesting because I feel like most DAWs can do mostly what every DAW can do, but maybe not as well as what one can do. But Ableton can kind of do it all to a degree. It's just like I said, for me, it just doesn't really click, but I would like it to. Like that's you know what I mean? But then I also don't want to buy and learn another DAW. Like, no. I made Reason a long time ago kind of act as Ableton, where I was sending MIDI live to all my different synths and playing live. And then I did it with Logic, and it works pretty well in Logic, better than in Reason. But yeah, I mean, it's just you find the DAW that works for you. But I think it's cool that 22 years Ableton's been around, and I feel like it has changed the landscape a lot in DAWs, and like Logic was doing the started doing clips because Ableton has it, and I always feel like it's good. That's what we talk about. Having these competition between companies of any kind is always good because then they're all trying to improve on each other, or should be trying to. Couple bits of comments. Lars says, "Great dad joke there, Sun Warper." I guess I slipped right into the fatherhood role when dealing with Reason and Logic. I don't know.
You've been waiting all your life for this.
I was bored for this moment. Survey Channel says, I downloaded Ableton Lite yesterday and was messing around with it. I guess I could say what he wrote because you guys already screwed us with the explicit with everything you've been saying. But anyways, I try to keep it. What'd you say, Eon Lake?
I didn't say anything rude. I just said syphilis.
Yeah, but knowing YouTube censorship, I didn't say rude. I said explicit. YouTube
medical
censorship.
Term.
It's a medical term, yeah.
All right. Well, if we get, we can dispute it. We can dispute it. Yeah. We can be like, hey, it's a medical term. We'll see what happens. Frequency Control Center says, I guess it's just what you're used to. No point in using watercolor if you're an oil painter. While I agree with that, I also do think it's good to get out of your comfort zones and learn something new. Like I'm doing that with the Digitact. I'd love to do that with Ableton at some point, should time permit. Yeah, I think I agree. Like it's good to be with your strengths and do it right. But then I also think we should always be lifelong learners. And the only way to do that is to get out of what we know. Yeah. Survey Channel says drum rack with samples, you see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lars says, I have the light version, used it for 5 minutes and figured out it wasn't for me.
He's talking about Bitwig there, though, I think.
If you look at Bitwig, yeah.
Oh, that Bitwig, that is. Okay, I saw at the end. Well, still, I think I opened Bitwig. Was that the one? I can't remember. Letters from Mouse uses, I can't remember what it is, but he was telling me about it.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Reaper. It wasn't Reaper. It was Reaper, I think Survey Channel uses. I think it might be Bitwig. I downloaded it on like a work computer and then didn't have anything to, like I didn't have any synths or MIDI. So I was like, what? So yeah. Monochrome Echo says it's really hard to get a real feel for a DAW with the light versions. Half the good stuff is left out. Yeah, that's true. But then on the other hand, if it's not clicking at all, and then you spend the more money for the full one and it still doesn't click. So yeah, I get both sides. Yeah, for sure. Where is it? Lars says true. I think that's about what Monochrome was saying. Monochrome Echo also says Ableton really comes into its own with Max for Live. Yeah, that's true. And I think that's what you guys can correct me, but that's only with the higher tiered version, like the normal and or standard.
Yeah. So you might be going, where are all the envelope followers? Where are the LFOs? Nowhere. I don't like.
Was that all Max for Live? I see. So that
LFOs are Max for Live, are they? Ah, I didn't realize that. I just bought the suite outright. I didn't, because I've got LFOs on here. It's only been recently I've started using LFOs actually in the DAW. Since I got this guy. I didn't realize that was Max for Live.
So what else does Light have reduced?
Light is only 8 tracks, I think.
Only 8 tracks? Interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I get what you're saying, Monochrome Echo, then. Yeah, for sure. I can see that about needing like the full suite. Ableton standard is how much? Or whatever you call the standard one.
€50, I think. Hang on.
The standard, not Light. The standard.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, not the Light, Curtis, the standard. Because Survey Channel says that the suite is the one that costs as much as a piece of hardware.
It is. Yeah, so
here we go.
Standard is €279 for standard, and then €600 for suite. You can
upgrade paths or something.
You can, upgrade paths. So like I bought intro, and I think within about 2 days I bought the standard, and then about 6 months later I bought the suite, I think. And so you can do upgrade paths that way. And
I do like that they have that intro cost. That's cool.
Yeah, and this is cool. I mean, with the intro, you get 16 now. 16 now. Sorry, so it used to be 8, but 16 now. 16 tracks, 16 scenes, 2 send and returns, 8 mono input, 8 output. You can capture MIDI and then warp. All right, which is a lot for €80. Let's face it, it's a lot for €80.
I mean, though, to be fair, it's a lot. And one thing I was going to say is it's interesting the different prices of all these different DAWs. Like you get everything for Logic for like $200, and you never have to buy an upgrade, at least for a very, very long time. Logic X has been around for a very, very long time, and when they update it, you get it.
Always been cheap.
Yeah, and then whereas Reason, they upgraded like every year or two, and you'd always have to pay for the upgrade. And then I think this one they're claiming with Reason 12, they're like going to stick with it for a while. But yeah, it's interesting all the different price points and stuff. That's one of the things I always liked about Logic is it's like one price, get it, that's it. And then for the longest time, you just get all the updates they added since they add everything. But you get it all with just the one price. But I like though that there is this very low cost entry level Ableton. That's really cool.
And then the only things that you get in Suite that you're going to get in anything else is Max for Live and this CV integration that they've introduced for modular stuff.
Oh, so you only get Max for Live with Suite.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you only get LFOs and stuff with Suite, is what you're telling me. If that's accurate. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's 600.
Max for Live.
Can you scroll back up, Curtis? Was that 600?
Yeah. That's
bits of
€600.
Perfect. Okay. So bits of chat. Lars says, I love Reaper. Machine plus Reaper is his jam. Yeah, Reaper, I've always wanted to check out.
I tried it. I could not get on with it at all.
I'm similar, yeah.
And then Monochrome Echo says, Light is what's given away with various hardware and other from other manufacturers.
Yeah, I think we're confusing Light with intro because Light is very light. That's what I've put on my kids.
Oh, Light is different. They're not even showing that on this thing.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
But Light does give you a discount on intro, I think.
I see. So Light comes with the other gear that you buy, like, you buy something
and it comes given away sometimes.
Okay. And then intro is something you'd buy differently. Interesting. Okay.
What maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Two things. Firstly, if you're part of an educational facility, you can get it through your educational facility, and it's heavily discounted. So I've got a copy of Ableton on here, but then also at work, I got Suite, and I got it through the company, and they bought it for me, etc., etc. So that is one way of looking at it. Secondly, you can have it on 2 devices. So I don't know how much you can do for Logic and everything like that. But if you have a copy of Ableton,
I think you get like 5 or 6 because I have it on all of my computers, and I only bought it once. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
I bought it back in 2013, and I've had 4 or 5 different computers that have all had Logic on it.
Okay. Well, that's I mean, okay. So that just backs up my what I was going to say is the notion of halvesies, and then you can have one copy on each computer.
I do need to get Ableton at some point for my performance. So yeah. Let's see. We got some chats. Survey Channel says Reaper is what I use. Lars says I'm assuming for Reaper it's bad for composing, great for recording and complex routing, unless he means like Machine and Reaper. But I'm curious, Lars, does that Survey Channel? You could probably answer that too. Does Reaper have MIDI? I'm assuming it does, but I'm just curious.
I think it does.
It does, but it doesn't come with any VSTs or anything like that.
Yeah,
so
I know that. You have to get
MIDI
like
side,
everything third party, right? Survey Channel says to Curtis, if only I was a student still. Lars, it's never too late.
Yeah.
And Monochrome says Light definitely gets you on the upgrade path for free if you happen to have a copy. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, if you have something, that's a good point. Lars says I'm eternally a student. And Survey Channel says, yes, it does have MIDI. I believe that's what he's referring to. Reaper does have some official plugins, actually, he says. Interesting.
I'll have a dig around. What's Monochrome Echo said was quite got my brain ticking. I bought the launch pad, and then I bought 2 launch controls, and I've still got the boxes, and they all come with a copy of Light. And I never used them because I bought the suite. So I'm wondering. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I've obviously stumbled from my
hook it up, bro.
But I'll have a look in the boxes, and if anyone, let me have a look. I can't make any promises because this is just something that's just come to my head. But I'll have a look in my boxes and see if I've got anything lying around. And if anyone's interested, let me know, and I can put some codes out.
If I can get even with Light, if I can do MIDI stuff, I'll try the quintessential Digitact overbridge into Ableton. We'll do it on the show.
All right, sounds like a plan. I'll have like I say, let me have a dig around. I've got all my boxes are up there, and I'll have a look. I can't make any promises, but I'll have a look.
Okay, no worries. Let's see. We got some more chats. Survey Channel says tons of scripts too for Reaper stuff people build out. Lars says I create all my stuff in Machine and route it into Reaper for mixing and processing. Survey Channel continues, for example, Relearn is what I used heavily in my live performance project. Great for setting MIDI controlling on any and everything. Yeah, because Reaper, like you're saying, it's all customizable, right? So you can just like create all these different things or get them from people. Reaper does sound pretty cool. It's just something I've never gotten around to, but it does look and seem really promising with like the customizability and stuff. Monochrome Echo says, Novation, Focusrite always give away a copy of Light. Yeah.
It's always good fun to have. It's a good little window in. I do find with DAWs, if you it's the same as like DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro. There's always a big learning curve, and it's always one where you're gonna hit a hurdle, get frustrated, stop, and find the will and the power to come back to it. But once you do, you reap the rewards really quickly and really well, and it's well worth the effort. So yeah, that's my last thing I have to say on Ableton, that kind of thing. Go with it. It's great. It's amazing.
Use what DAW works for you. That's what I will say. But happy birthday to Ableton. I think that's awesome to celebrate that. But yeah, let's wrap things up a little bit. First of all, if you want to talk more about DAWs, anything like that, be sure to head over to the Discord. The link is in the description. We talk about this kind of stuff all day and all night because we have international time, so everybody is up at different times. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about what we're up to this coming week. Curtis, you got any live stuff or anything else?
We're going live after this, a little bit earlier. FCC, if he's still here, he gave me a load of stems, and so I'm going to be mucking around with them, warping and chopping them up, and more production. I think I've got a lot. Again, I've still got a lot of tracks which are unfinished, so I'm going to be sitting down with a cup of tea and mixing. Lots of mixing. I love mixing. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What about you, Ian?
I've got to the point with a number of songs where I'm just going to start adding stuff for the sake of it. They need more they're not quite finished, but I'm not 100% inspired. So I'm parking them and I'm destroying sounds over here on the play tray and just trying to do some sound design, come up with something that I like that's a bit different, rather than just going, well, what are my favorite plugins? Pick one, record another part. And I am messing around in the modular again and sticking the night sky on that and
nice.
Messing around with tape loop things. Well, not actually tape loops, but things in Morphogene, so on, to just reacquainting myself with some of my favorite toys and having some fun in the hope that it will inspire the completion of these songs and they won't just get phoned in. How about you, Sam Warpum?
Surviving, dealing with a newborn. That's my big one.
Sleeping.
The weather, not really, not last night, but before that, yes. But the weather changed. Like, we got these Santa Ana winds, so my allergies are just going nuts. So that added to the no sleep. I'm just like dead. But I've been having a lot of fun with the Digitact. I've been using it. I filmed a couple different videos. The first beat I made is going to come out on my YouTube tomorrow, if tomorrow's Thursday. I think it is. I have no idea sense of time anymore. What is time? But anyways, that's going to come out. And then I think next week I'm prepping this studio rebuild. You can see I've got the Prophet's now up there. I've got the mixer, Erebus, mini log, and then let me see if you can see. Let's go full screen here real quick.
I noticed I could see the mini log again, but I couldn't figure out what had changed. Yeah, that's cool.
A lot changed. So basically, this is my control level, and then I'm hoping with that MIDI splitter that David was kind enough to help me with, Eon Lake. I'm hoping that I can send MIDI from the circuit into these two, and then probably the Digitact will handle MIDI to, I can't see, so I'm trying to look on screen to this, and then everything's going to go into the mixer. Mixer goes into the Digitact. Digitact goes into the SP, so I can resample everything into the SP and then control the SP with the Digitact. It's crazy. I use the MIDI of the Digitact controlling the SP, and it's nuts. The sequencer on the Digitact is so much better than the SP. So using that was a game changer. I hate to use that term, but it was. So that's me. That's me this week, is surviving.
And it's got song mode as well. That does make it easy. Right?
I haven't even started with the
you
song
don't have
mode
to pattern
yet,
chain song mode.
I gotta figure that crap out still. I'm not there yet. Bits of comments before we go. Survey Channel says, no, you can't wrap up. You have to keep going. Well, head to the Discord, bro. And we'll talk over there. Lars says he's a new parent. Sleep is not an option. Yeah, that is what I'm finding. And Jay Bell is in the chat saying time is warper. Yeah, pretty much. Gents, anything else before we go?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for tuning in. It's been a lot.
You guys have that synced mind. Yeah, well, we appreciate everybody hanging out. We love having you all in the chat. If you want to continue the talk, head to the Discord. Link is in the description. If you got some value out of the video, though, also consider leaving it a like. It helps a ton with getting to the algorithm and all that stuff. Share the video if you want to help us. It all helps a ton. Of course, hanging out and chatting with you is the best part. And if you do need some new music, or if you've got some new music you'd like on a playlist, check out the Audionautic Radio playlist in the description. You can submit on the Discord, or you can submit to my socials or the Audionautic Twitter. Looks like Curtis is hungry. Am I taking up too much of your time, Curtis?
No, I was just going to say,
I'm rubbing your tummy.
That's just the gorilla in me. We are currently at 330 subscribers, 3 away from the lucky number, but we are trying to get to 500. So I want to double down on that whole. If you like,
there he goes. There he goes.
Nearly,
he jumped up. He didn't open it though.
Third time lucky with Steve. Usually third time lucky. The Masonic number, yeah, very much so. So yeah, if you
I full screen because I want to see him do it.
He
gave up.
Steve.
He'll go back to it. We are trying to get to 500, and we'd like to get to 500. 500 is a big number for us. It allows us to grow on this platform. You lovely patrons allow us to keep doing things on Discord and on Patreon, and just to do stuff on StreamYard, for example. but we can grow even better once we get to 500. So that is our goal. So again, if you want to help us with that, if you would, not that you don't help us enough already, but let people know that we exist and what we do here week in and week out. We really appreciate it. And once we keep growing together, we grow, and we are here because of you. So thank you very much indeed.
Oh, you almost got it. Come on, Steve, you got it. This is like a meta
Yeah,
thing of the show. I'm like rooting for him to get that door. I just like want to see it. And I know the second we end the call, he's going to do it. But oh, come on, Steve, you got this. Hold on. Let's just see. One more second. Come on, Steve. Don't give up. Don't give up.
Go on. You gonna? Oh, he's got stage fright. He's got stage fright.
All right.
Yeah,
we'll try to get it another time. But anyways, that's it for the show. We'll see you all over in the Discord. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.